To Indonesia, where the case of a prominent Muslim cleric will restart on Thursday. It comes after prosecutors rejected a statement from Abu Bakr Bashir's defense team. His supporters allege international involvement in the case. Bashir is accused of planning terrorism and funding a paramilitary training camp in Aceh. The corruption trial of the former French president Jacques Chirac has opened in Paris. Chirac is accused of misusing public funds during his time as mayor of the capital. Tim Friend reports from Paris.
In typical style, Jacques Chirac always insisted that he wanted to be treated like any other person facing trial. But that's unlikely to happen. The 78-year-old, one of France's longest-serving presidents, seems to grow in popularity with the French public, who view him with a particular fondness, the envy of other politicians. This is despite the fact that he's the first former head of state to face criminal charges since the Fifth Republic was founded half a century ago. A judge is now considering last-minute attempts to delay the trial for being unconstitutional, but Mr. Chirac says he plans to appear if it goes ahead.
The French president has always maintained that he wants to explain himself, and he'll say this better than I, what he judges necessary to say.
The agonizing wait goes on for Jacques Chirac, but soon he will know whether he must face trial. This is an historic moment in French politics, the prospect of one of its longest-serving presidents facing a term in jail. He's now in fragile health. His wife, Bernadette, dismissed reports that he's suffering from Alzheimer's disease, but he may find a court appearance arduous. The abuse of public funds charges spring from his time as mayor of Paris and salaries paid to so-called phantom employees at the town hall. The money was used as part of Chirac's drive for further power in the 1990s, at the end of his 18-year term as mayor.
Well, he finished his term as mayor of Paris in 1995, and after that he won 2 presidential elections in 1995 and in 2002. Now, the French public was very much aware of these very serious allegations against him of corruption, but it's a cultural problem in France. I think the French press is not strong enough. It didn't do a good job of holding him accountable.
A civil action is being settled by repayment of funds. Mr. Chirac lost his legal immunity against criminal charges after he retired. If found guilty, he could face a heavy fine and up to 10 years in prison. But in practice, he would be more likely to receive a small suspended sentence. Tim Friend, AlJazeera, Paris.
Now, cyber hackers have infiltrated France's finance ministry, stealing classified information about the country's leadership of the G20. Security agents say it was the biggest ever cyber attack against the government. France became president of the group in November, and it's thought the ministry was targeted in the last few months. Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi has undergone 4 hours of surgery. The operation was to repair damage to his jaw from when a man threw a statue at him in 2009. He suffered a broken nose and 2 broken teeth in the incident. The treatment involved a bone transplant and an implant. We're shutting up no more. That's the message hundreds of journalists have been trying to press home in Jordan. Encouraged by protests in the region, they're asking the government to stop silencing them. The Minister of Media even joined the rally himself. Nasrina Shamaila has more.
Stop government censorship and put an end to the meddling of Jordan's intelligence service in the media. Those were the demands made by hundreds of Jordanian journalists protesting in Amman. They say the imposed self-censorship and conservative editorial policies have only produced a pitiable and frightened local media. Every one of these journalists has a story to tell about being censored, from their filmed material being confiscated, to their TV channels shut down, to being issued travel bans.
There are red lines. Journalists are not allowed to cross them in Jordan. Both internal and foreign affairs fall within these red lines. Your journalistic and personal freedoms can be impinged upon, and your material confiscated if you speak about these red lines.
The government spokesperson attended the sit-in and agreed with the protesters' demands.
It is impossible to achieve any kind of reforms, political or economic, unless we start by granting the media more freedoms.
The intelligence service hasn't only been criticized for limiting press freedoms, but it has also been blamed for rigging several elections. That's why most Jordanians now believe that the only way forward in carrying out political reforms is by loosening the grip of the intelligence service on the nation's affairs.
I think that the security establishment also should stick to its own business, which is taking care of security matters and not interfere in questions of public affairs and the media and appointing or firing journalists and editors-in-chief.
The distrust of the country's intelligence service runs deep. Many Jordanians are convinced its agents blatantly rigged the 2007 parliamentary election to curb the influence of the Muslim Brotherhood. And the Jordanian intelligence's cooperation with America's CIA in Afghanistan is another controversial subject. With so many Jordanians demanding wholesale political change, it appears the future role of the country's security service could also change if their demands are met. Nisreen Al-Shamaili, AlJazeera, Amman.
There's been a violent eruption at a volcano in Hawaii. Lava was spewed up to 20 meters in the sky above the Big Island. There were also 150 small earthquakes in the area. The volcano has been erupting since 1983, making it one of the most active in the world. Experts, however, say the latest eruptions were new and that they would continue to keep a close eye on the area. You're watching Al Jazeera. These are the stories making headlines. Forces loyal to Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi continue to strike back hard against rebel positions. Rebels are preparing for fresh fighting near the town of Bin Jawad, which was retaken by government forces on Sunday. President Barack Obama says Washington and its allies are still considering a military response to the crisis in Libya. Gulf Arab leaders have called for a UN-enforced no-fly zone. Al Jazeera has received pictures that purportedly show Libyan army officers killed for refusing to fire on the rebels. These pictures are from a Zintan in western Libya and were sent to us by the opposition. They say the colonel seen here was killed by Gaddafi's forces after refusing to shoot. At least 3 other officers were also said to be killed. Al Jazeera has learned the British citizens released by Libyan rebels on Sunday were captured after an exchange of gunfire. 8 British nationals, including a diplomat, and SAS members were captured soon after they landed in eastern Libya. Egypt's caretaker prime minister says restoring security is a priority for his government. Issam Sharaf spoke to journalists hours after a new-look cabinet was sworn in. Meanwhile, Egypt's prosecutor has ordered the detention of 47 police officers for burning documents at several state security headquarters. The White House has lifted a suspension on military trials at Guantanamo Bay. According to a statement from the U.S. government, military commission trials will resume and detainees will have the right to periodic reviews of their cases. The White House is reserving the right to prosecute detainees in U.S. federal courts. Legal rights groups have condemned